I get it. You clicked on this video because you thought that the title was a little bit egregious. You know, how can I project for Kyle Pitts to be the tight end 1 overall in 2021 with other fantastic tight end options at the position as well? And I know tight end 1 is probably a little egregious. I know, I get that. But I would like to make the case in this video as to why I believe that Kyle Pitts is a top 3 fantasy tight end in 2021 and has the ultimate ceiling to be the tight end 1 overall. Let's get right into the video. What is up, everybody? Welcome into another DLF YouTube channel video. Today we're going to be discussing Kyle Pitts, and I know we've been discussing Kyle Pitts a lot on this channel. You've heard it from me, you've heard it from the DLF podcast, you've heard it from a lot of people outside of the DLF YouTube channel as well. Kyle Pitts is probably one of the most talked about players in 2021 for fantasy football, from the NFL draft all the way till now, and he will continue to be probably for the remainder of his, what I believe to be a great career with the Atlanta Falcons. But I want to talk to you about why I believe that Kyle Pitts will be a top 3 fantasy tight end in 2021 and has the ultimate upside of being the tight end 1 overall. Yes, over Travis Kelce, over Darren Waller, over George Kittle, why he has that ultimate upside. And I want to start by saying, number one, that Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle, all of those tight ends are very, very good. They're fantastic. One of the best traits that they have about them is that they are actually wide receivers playing the tight end position. And that is also what we have with Kyle Pitts. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine you're back on draft night. The Falcons are on the clock and they select Jamar Chase instead, right? Now fast forward a month, the Atlanta Falcons have just traded away Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans. And you're so excited because Jamar Chase is on your fantasy team. He is now the for sure wide receiver 2, if not even the wide receiver 1B to Calvin Ridley in this Atlanta Falcons offense. Now open your eyes again, because guess what? That situation is actually happening. It's playing out right now, just with a different player that's not named Jamar Chase. It's happening with Kyle Pitts. Too many people are stuck seeing the letters T and E beside Kyle Pitts' name as his positional designation. And based on history, you know, they want to say that rookie tight ends fail to produce in their rookie season. They fail to make a major fantasy football impact. The best ones to do it are Evan Ingram, you know, Jeremy Shockey. You guys have heard the stats. You've heard it on this channel. I've even said it before on this channel. But Pitts is not a normal rookie tight end. The Falcons didn't draft him because of his blocking ability. In fact, that was one of the things that a lot of people were concerned about for Kyle Pitts. The Falcons didn't draft him to put his hand in the dirt and be an extra lineman next to a tackle like Nick Boyle or other blocking tight ends. The Falcons drafted Kyle Pitts at the highest draft capital a tight end has ever received in NFL history, because they knew that he was a difference maker and a massive playmaker and can line up anywhere on the field and absolutely win and dominate no matter where he was. And he can transition that dominance from college football to the NFL. And they also were comfortable trading away Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans because of Kyle Pitts. And once the Tennessee Titans traded for Julio Jones, it became massively apparent what the Atlanta Falcons wanted to do with Kyle Pitts. They want Pitts to be a primary outside wide receiver or line him up inside the slot. That's where they want to play him. He is not going to be a straight up inline tight end. He is going to be much more of a Julio Jones replacement, lining up in a lot of snaps outside or in the slot. What that also does is allow the Falcons to play their actual tight end in Hayden Hurst a lot more in terms of the traditional tight end role in that offense. And we're already seeing that the Atlanta Falcons want to use Pitts as a wide receiver. In fact, we've already seen it in a video today from training camp, in a video that maybe you have seen and is being hyped up as a Kyle Pitts training camp video. I know, I get it, it's training camp and it's a hype video, but I'm talking about this training camp video right here from the Atlanta Falcons Twitter account. And this video is basically, it's a short clip. It's 18 seconds long, and it shows Kyle Pitts, you know, making a ridiculous catch up in the air, and you know, after bobbles and juggling and whatnot from the defender. This is a fantastic clip that you love to see, and it's just being utilized as a hype piece for Kyle Pitts. But what I want to talk about is that there's actually a lot more in this video than what you might see initially, and there's a lot more to show you that is what is going on inside this Falcons offense. And number one, obviously we can see that this is the ones. This is Matt Ryan running here. Right there's Mike Davis as well. You know, and obviously Kyle Pitts is running with the ones. We already knew that. That's not news. We already knew Kyle Pitts is going to be running with the ones. Here's the important thing, though. Things that you might notice from this video. Number one, that's Hayden Hurst right there. That is Hayden Hurst, and he's running a lot closer to the offensive line where Matt Ryan is receiving the snap. That means that they want to utilize Hayden Hurst on the field at the same time as Kyle Pitts. A point that I made that can allow the Falcons to utilize Hayden Hurst in a much more traditional tight end role when Kyle Pitts is played outside or in the slot. So there's number one. Number two, you can also see Mike Davis come in right here. And then finally, this is the big thing that you might notice right here, is if you look right there, this guy right here, number 8, that's Kyle Pitts. This guy's Kyle Pitts, number 8. And if you see where he comes from the angle of this camera, is he's coming from an outside role as a wide receiver. He's coming from the outside, running some sort of an inside post route. That's where Matt Ryan finds him. And then obviously he makes that fantastic catch after the defender tried to make a play on it, juggling and doing all that stuff. So you can definitely see that there is, a plan for Kyle Pitts in this Atlanta Falcons offense. And that plan is to utilize him as a wide receiver. So if he's going to be out there, he's going to be lining out wide or in the slot, or maybe sometimes, obviously because he is a tight end, could be lining in line as well, but he's going to be out there. And when he is out there, he's going to be running routes. He's going to be receiving targets, and he's going to be making plays. And if all that stuff is going on at the same time, he is going to be a positional advantage for you at the tight end position in your fantasy football lineups. So what does it mean to be a positional advantage at the tight end position? Well, I pulled up the top 12 players at the tight end position last year. These are all the tight end ones in 2020 from PPR fantasy scoring. And you can see just how big of a difference Travis Kelce and Darren Waller made for your fantasy teams, even over the tight ends 3 through 6, who all scored basically the same from 170 to 176 fantasy points. So from last year, you can see 215 fantasy points last year would have been good for 13.5 fantasy points per game, which was 3 to 4 points per game better than the tight ends 3 through 6, which would make him a positional advantage. So that gives us a benchmark for fantasy points right there at 215 points that we need Kyle Pitts to hit to become a positional advantage, assuming that 2021 plays out very similarly to how it did for 2020. So we can look at the top 5 wide receiver seasons from the last 3 years, and we can see a path for Kyle Pitts to produce as a rookie and be a positional advantage. You can see that all of these players scored over 200 fantasy points, with only Ridley really not being in 100% in that 215 fantasy point range that we are looking for. And again, this is just the past 3 seasons. We can go back even further. We can capture guys like Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill in their rookie years, or even back to the entire 2014 class, basically, where you grab guys like Odell Beckham Jr., Kelvin Benjamin, Mike Evans. These guys aren't putting up historic rookie fantasy seasons like Justin Jefferson and OBJ did, but a lot of the other guys, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper, Kelvin Benjamin, these guys were putting up decent fantasy seasons for the wide receiver position, where 215 fantasy points would have been good for last year, the wide receiver 23, so a back-end wide receiver 2 at the wide receiver position. But again, 215 fantasy points at the tight end position is the tight end 3 in 2020 and a positional advantage for you in your fantasy lineups. So there is historical precedence for rookie pass catchers to be good in their offenses, to score fantasy points, to score over 215 fantasy points that we're looking for. And Kyle Pitts could be the next man on that list. So now we can talk projections here. Projections for the 2021 Atlanta Falcons offense. And we can go into 2021 with the strong belief that Kyle Pitts is a playmaker. He's going to be lined up a lot on the outside or in the slot, much more as a wide receiver. And so we're going forward with that. The Falcons in 7 of the past 9 seasons have passed for over 600 or more pass attempts. Arthur Smith now comes in from the Tennessee Titans, who, yes, was an offensive coordinator for a very low volume passing team, but now doesn't really have Derrick Henry to give the ball 350 times to. I mean, Mike Davis is fine. He's good. He's not Derrick Henry good. He's not going to receive the same volume that Derrick Henry received. And Arthur Smith knows that he can utilize this offense and knows how to utilize this offense to get the best out of all of his weapons. And the best weapons on his team are Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. So he's going to be able to give the ball to them, and he's going to want to get the ball to them. So even if we drop it down to 575 pass attempts for 2021, which is 50 fewer attempts than what the Falcons threw for last year, we can still break down targets as such. Calvin Ridley at 140, Kyle Pitts at 120, Gage, Hurst, and Davis all being very similar. Gage at 75, Hurst at 65, and Davis at 60. That still leaves 115 targets for all the rest of the guys, like backup running backs like Brian Hill, backup wide receivers like Olamide Zaccheaus and all those other guys, backup tight ends, Jaden Graham and whatnot, whoever else that they have on their team, just leaves, 115 targets for all those extra guys as well. So based on that, based on 120 targets for Kyle Pitts, we can project 75 receptions, which is just a basic 62.5% reception percentage, 900 yards, which I think is a pretty basic 12 yards per reception, which was lower than what we saw from Travis Kelce and George Kittle, and just a little bit better than what we saw from Darren Waller last year. And then 8 touchdowns brings us to that magical 215 fantasy point mark for Kyle Pitts in his rookie year. And again, to me, that I think is kind of a safe projection, 75 for 908. We can bump up his yards per reception. If you bump that all the way up to 14, you get him close to 1,100 yards, and he breaks 230 fantasy points. We can increase his targets if the Falcons do sustain passing for over 600 attempts like they have in, I said, 7 of the last 9 seasons with Matt Ryan. Then we're talking about, an increase in everything, an increase in receptions, an increase in yards, potentially an increase in touchdowns. And then not even mention the fact that if he was a legit 1-for-1 replacement of Julio Jones last year, Julio last year averaging 6 receptions and 64 yards per game in 9 games last year, which is a 16-game pace of 96 receptions for over 1,000 yards, and over a 16 fantasy points per game pace would be over 250 fantasy points, which is not that far behind than Darren Waller's 280 points last year, which again brings him to a positional advantage at the tight end position. So you can see how easily we went from that safe projection of 75 for 908 to potentially being a league-winning type of player with more volume, with better efficiency, maybe with more touchdowns as well, because he's a very good touchdown receiver and catcher inside the red zone. That's how they utilized him at Florida, and he can definitely do that again in the Atlanta Falcons offense. So you can see just how easy it is for us to say that he's pretty solidly inside the top 3 fantasy tight ends, I would say, and then also has that ultimate upside to be the tight end 1 overall in 2021. So I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comment section. Do you believe in Kyle Pitts or not for 2021? Do you believe in him as a dynasty play, but not so much for redraft? Are you comfortable drafting him in redraft in the 4th round? I want to hear all that from you guys down in the comment section below. You can click right here if you want to watch a video of me breaking down some crazy splits from the 2020 or the past 2 seasons as well for some players for the 2021 NFL season. And with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch y'all later.